All right, so we're back, and in the previous video, we finished up inside our character blueprint for the moment in terms of setting up our controls, so our character could run around, he could jump, and we could do that with both the mouse and keyboard, the gamepad, and touch controls now. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about animation montage before we jump back into the editor. And the reason that we wanted to talk about animation montages for just a second is this is the system that we're going to be using for our punching sequence so that our character can punch. And I thought it was a good opportunity to kind of break down how they're used and what they can do. I guess in short, though, the purpose of an animation montage is to allow you to combine animations. And that's really only the first part, because that in and of itself is not really all that special. There's other ways that you can do that in Unreal Engine 4. But you can then section off those animations within the montage and then play animations selectively from that montage. You can also do things like fire off events. You can essentially use montages as a way to take an entire group of related animations and make them into a single unit. And then within that unit, you can choose exactly what's happening at a given time. Now, probably the best usage case for an animation montage would be for special animations, one-off things. A really good example would be like reloading a shotgun. I'm sure you've all played that game where you've had a character that had to reload his shotgun. And if it's an 8-round shotgun, they'll break the thing down and then start ramming the shells. So they're like 1, 2, 3, 4, and they keep reloading the shotgun over and over again. Doing that as a montage in Unreal Engine 4, well, the way that you would start doing that is you would have one animation that would be breaking open the shotgun. And then you'd have another single animation that would be loading a shell. And then another animation that would be closing the gun. So the way that the montage would actually pull this off is that it would immediately start playing and your character would begin breaking down the shotgun. And then they would start loading in that first shell. But then you could loop this section of the animation, keep looping the loading the shell aspect as many times as you needed to. This could actually be based on game logic. So if you're only 4 rounds down, you could loop that loading animation just 4 times. And there could actually be a check like based off an event or a branch point, which we'll talk more about a little bit later. You can actually then make sure that the gun is full, and if it is, then you can move on to the next animation and close up the gun. Now, what we're going to do instead is a little bit different. We're setting up punches, as you know, and our punching system is going to be broken up into 5 parts. We'll have a punch start, we'll have a left punch, we'll have a right punch, but then we'll also have a left punch end and a right punch end. Now, the reason that we're going to have 2 different endings is for each of the hands that the character could be punching with. So imagine yourself punching a heavy bag and you're throwing a right-handed punch and then you suddenly stop punching. You would need an animation to go from the right hand back to an idle position. But for throwing a left-handed punch, you would need a different motion to go from the left punch back to the idle. So that's why we have 2 different animations for ending our punch. The way that our system is going to work is that as soon as the mouse button is held down, we are going to start playing the punching sequence. Then as soon as that part of the animation is done, it will immediately start firing off our left punch. And once that's done, it will try to move on to the right punch. And when it's done with the right punch, it's going to loop back and try to play the left punch again. And then it will loop back and try to play the right punch again, and so on and so on. So you can literally sit there as long as the mouse button is held down and continue punching, left, right, over and over again. The key word that was slipped into those last 2 statements, however, is that it will try to play the next punch. That's kind of where these events will come into play. Essentially, what we are going to constantly be asking each time we throw a punch, before I continue on to the next punch, is the player still holding down the left mouse button to punch? And if they are, then we'll keep punching. But as soon as that answer comes back as no, that the player is not holding down the mouse button anymore, then we will say, okay, well, which hand were they punching with? And let's play the appropriate animation to stop punching. And then we'll be done with our animation montage. So that's kind of what the animation montage is going to do for us. Internally, the way that some people like to describe it is it's kind of like being an animation DJ. So there you are on the 1s and 2s, and it's a party of some sorts, appears to be music. And the way it works is you could start playing a montage, and then based off various game events, or game logic essentially, you can queue up what the next animation is, or like with the DJ example, what the next song is going to be. And you could play that, or you could stop playing altogether. You can jump to any part of the montage that you need to. So it's kind of like having turntables, and you have a lot of control over what's going to happen next as you are animating your characters. Now, there are some other things that montages can do as well that we are not going to be exploring necessarily in this video series. It has its own set of notifies, curves, and tracks, which notifies we'll get into a little bit later. That's what we're used for the particle effect that appears when running around, as you saw in the intro video to this series. But curves and tracks, which can be used for layer, additive, animations, etc., is a bit outside of our scope, so we're not going to be exploring that in this series. Maybe we'll save that for another video down the road. So I guess that's actually it. This is going to be a short video. I kind of wanted to just touch on animation montages before we start working with them. So we'll pause here. Just a heads up again, though, really quickly. The animations that we are going to be using for our punching sequence are not really intended to be used this way, so don't expect things to come back looking amazing, but you will get to see the process of how to create an animation montage and how you can apply that to your own game as well. So with that, let's pause here, and we will pick it up in the next video where we will begin setting up our animation montage, as well as take a look at skeleton retargeting to fix up our character's animations and finally fix our character's dislocated arm. So let's pause, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.